I'm happy to disconnect my stuff. I was just
No, that's perfect.
okay.
So,
Yeah.
this is going to be on YouTube for a long. If you step away, then you get lost.
Gotcha. Okay, no problem.
Thank you.
And this is this going to be on?
No, have a look over there.
I'm so short. I'll just put my.
So
You and I are about the same size.
my problem is to see that as well.
I got you.
So I can.
I was going to say
I can't do both.
on screen. I will be upset.
Well,
but I can project.
this thing is also important. So I can tip it forward.
And I swear my own following
Yeah.
So I can do that.
Okay, I got you.
Whatever you prefer.
I mean, I think probably the screen's showing the screen.
You sure you want that, Robert?
Do you think?
Okay, so I'm gonna do both then like that.
I'm lovely, but
There you go. Okay. All right. So you're gonna have to also step forward. As close to this thing as possible. I have to stay in bed. Let me just see what it looks like.
I can only go so far.
Okay. I have another option that I was playing with. If I do this, I can get.
So you got the introduction then?
I'm gonna just do a name. And I'll let
And she'll come up. I don't know which one's coming up first.
I'm just doing.
Natalie?
Yeah.
Okay.
I could do that now,
Okay.
and then later on I'll just I'll tip it a little bit back and scoot a little.
All right.
Okay, there we go. It's got a good mic.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you. That looks great.
Let's call the meeting to order. I want to welcome everyone to the Rotary Club of Florence, serving all Boone County. If Pat Rafferty will come to the front, he will do our prayer, pledge, and four-way test.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Lord, for bringing us together today. Let's remember all those that have needs, all those that don't have food, that don't have peace, that don't have shelter, that don't have health care. And let's remember all those that have no one to pray for them. So let's pray for them now. This we pray, amen. To the pledge, I pledge the allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And four-way test of the things we think, say, or do. First, is it the truth? Second, is it fair to all concerned? Third, will it build goodwill and better relationships? Fourth, will it be beneficial to all concerned?
Thank you, Pat. All right, Sergeant at Arms.
Yes.
Sean.
We just had a visitor that I had to escort out. Barb Keeling identified the visitor. It was a ladybug on the back of my coat. As I understand that, that's a good thing. So we welcome back Noreen Morgan. Good to see you again this week, Noreen. I'm sure Leon's going to nominate you for membership, and we'd love to have you. How's that go? And we have another visitor today, Josh Quinn. Josh, would you stand up and tell us what you do, please?
Yes, my name is Josh Quinn. I work for Boone County Sheriff full time. I'm also the co-owners and co-founders of Boone County Distilling Company. Big bourbon right now. Thank you for having me.
Well, thank you. Welcome. All right, now the Reds took 2 out of 3 from the Cardinals, and training camp starts this week. So we're all very, very excited. And I wanted to highlight a few things that have happened since, because my sons, especially you out there in Zoom land, the Reds take a beating on some of the deals they made. So I want you to listen to some of these things. That's one of the cool things about baseball. There's numbers attached to things. Okay, so like if you're in sales and you don't meet your numbers, then the boss comes in and says you got to do this. Now in baseball, you don't meet your numbers, you still get paid $1 bazillion. So it's a good gig if you can get it. But Nick Castellanos, who I didn't want to see lead, is hitting 245 for the Philadelphia Phillies, and he's being booed routinely in the outfield. Jesse Winker is hitting 227, and Jesse's struggling as well. Eugenio Suarez is hitting 238, and he has several home runs, but 238. And our beloved Tucker Barnhart is hitting 211. So when you're beating folks up now, Sonny Gray is, I think he's got 69 innings is all he's pitched this year. Wade Miley, a favorite of mine, has pitched 19 innings this year. Amir Garrett, no favorite of mine, is blown up real well. But then I would also tell you, in fairness, that our third highest paid player this year that we acquired, Mike Minor, is doing awful. So, but baseball has all the different numbers, and there you have it. Thank you, Terry.
Thank you, Sean. A couple of announcements for today. We did unfortunately have a case of polio reported in the United States last week. This is the first one in over a decade. It happened in New York. My understanding is it was a 20-year-old young man who has never been vaccinated for anything. So keep him in your prayers, and let's hope that we don't see a return of polio to the United States. New Perceptions is our third quarter community service partner, and Sean will be giving us a little bit of a talk next week explaining what New Perceptions does. And then August, excuse me, August is, there goes my voice, August is Rotary International Membership Month. So please invite people to join us at our meetings. Next week, we will be seeing Matt Turner, who is the superintendent of Boone County Schools. One of the things that we do is we do happy dollars that we can give to Barb. So if you have anything that you want to talk about, and I'll get us started. This one is a professional goal that I've actually had for the library since 2018. We now officially, recognized by the state, recognized by the IRS, have a foundation for the Boone County Public Library. Anyone else? Senator.
Yeah, I have two announcements I'd like to make. The first one is.
Now, these grants for $1 or
$2.
Am I allowed to make announcements now?
Yeah, we'll remember, we'll catch up. I'll spot you.
The first one is a sad one. The dead body is back at the hospital. I'm feeling bad. You know, he was here, he was just on it. I'm so happy to be back in Rotary. He had been in the hospital for a long time and in rehab. Now he's back in St. Edie. So give him a call or drop him a car. He was really excited to come back to Rotary. So it's kind of set back for him. The other thing is this coming Thursday at 10 o'clock at the Anderson Fair, we are going to be naming a road, part of Route 8 down there by the Anderson Ferry, the Eddie Barlow Memorial Highway. Now, who is Eddie Barlow? I know at least two people in this group went to school with him. He graduated from Boone County High School in 1965. He was a center, star center on the football team. He got married, went to Eastern Kentucky University, was drafted, went into the Army, was killed in battle in Vietnam. He grew up there on Route 8 with the Glassons and all the folks who lived out there on Route 8. And some of his classmates, you know, they're older now, retired, got their kids raised, and they get to think about things. They want to get this, name this road in honor. So it's going to be a great memorial celebration of his life. A lot of his family's coming in from out of town. I would love to have a good presence of the Rotary at that ceremony. 10 o'clock at the Anderson Ferry. We'll have a tent set up and everyone involved.
Thank you. Anyone else?
I'd like to make an announcement. Did you get both of your dollars, by the way?
I'd spot them.
I got a dollar.
That's
Wait
not-
a minute. They're in here, they're in here. Today is.
Wait a minute, it's not on the table. We gotta get it out of your wallet.
If they make it to Friday, which I'm pretty sure they will, my in-laws are gonna be celebrating their 50th wedding anniversary. On Friday, so that's
Nice. Anyone else? Dwayne?
As I mentioned before, my son moved back from Colorado. He was 3 months. And part of the breakup was he got to keep the dog, which was the Great Dane. So the Great Dane and my son officially moved out last week.
Good. Anyone else? No? All right. So our speaker today is Natalie Chula, and she will be speaking about the St. Elizabeth Hospice. So I want to, I've lost my words. Welcome, Natalie, to the podium.
So excited to be on camera. What a thrill. I didn't know that was happening. So I'm Natalie Chula. I'm program coordinator for the Hospice and Palliative Care Program at St. Elizabeth Hospice. I've also got a couple other folks that are going to speak with me today. Debbie Holleran, who is our volunteer coordinator at Hospice, and then your very own Dennis McAvoy, who will share some of his experiences. So I just wanted to start quickly by turning on my, got it. Okay, so I'm not sure if you guys are aware, I always like to start my presentation with a bit of a downer. 100% of us will die. That's a statistic that you can for sure bank on. There are not many things that are true nowadays, and you can't bet on the stock market, but you can be sure that everybody in this room at some point is going to die. Hospice isn't for the old, it's not for the young, it's for all of us. It matters for all of us because of that statistic. So for Debbie and I, it's a calling. I'm a cancer survivor and someday I'm going to die, and I have a 30% higher chance of dying of cancer than anything else. So for me, it's really important. I hope after this presentation for you guys as well, it's also something that matters to you if you haven't had any personal experiences with hospice yet. So this is our philosophy of care. Hopefully many of you, like I said, are already aware of what hospice does, but I just want to briefly define it. The reason I do this for anybody that I'm presenting for is because we still have people in our community who come up to our nurses and also our social workers and whatnot and ask us when the big shot is coming. They ask us at what point we're going to be, putting their loved one to sleep. That's not a thing that we do. You might be surprised to find. Hospice is here to provide an added layer of support as an illness progresses towards end-of-life care. We're focused on whole person care, expert symptom management, spiritual care, psychosocial needs. Hospice is only appropriate in the last 6 months of life. So we're not the Grim Reaper coming after you with a sigh. That's not what we're here to do. Hospice does not over-medicate or dope patients up. This is a really common misconception. The reason that people have that misconception is because they don't understand what happens in end of life, what is happening as a person is dying. So again, our multidisciplinary team is highly trained. That's what we're here to do. We're here to educate family members and patients on what's going on, to provide them with the appropriate interventions that will help them mitigate this last great journey, hopefully peacefully. The next slide just focuses on wherever a person calls home. I like to clarify that hospice is not a place. We can provide services in a resident facility, a partner facility if you're already in a hospital. We can also provide care in assisted living or independent living facility. We'll provide care to a homeless vet on the corner of the street if we need to. Any place that you call home is where we're willing to go. So this is just a slide that summarizes, again, that whole person aspect of care. What does that care look like? We're not talking about active disease management. Again, at this stage in the game, a person's disease is what's unfortunately going to end their life, and it's not the hospice team. So we provide 24/7 RN availability. That includes regularly scheduled visits with all of our clinical team. And again, it's a multidisciplinary approach. So you're not just seeing a provider like you would in your primary care office. You're seeing nurses, social workers, chaplains, and our volunteers who provide companionship, life review. We provide massage therapy, music therapy, pet therapy, a lot of things that you aren't going to get in a normal hospital setting, as you may know. I want to show this slide, which is really what we would consider to be a good death. So a lot of times in hospice care, we talk about binaries. Either you have a good death or you have a bad death. A good death might be represented by respecting a person's wishes, preserving their dignity. Maybe it's just being there. Maybe it's celebrating a special event, as is evidenced in some of these photos. Maybe it's as simple as holding a person's hand. If we move to this slide, you can see some of the images that we're unfortunately very familiar with in the past couple of years. So this would be what we would consider to be a bad death, depending on, well, or at least prior to COVID and especially now. So 2022, well, 2020 through 2022 brought us COVID-19, and that, even for our hospice staff who were expertly trained, created a lot of barriers. We're more familiar with being present in end of life and teaching families that, we don't have any visitation restrictions in our inpatient unit. We're letting everybody in when that's happening. During that time, I interviewed several staff members for a different presentation, and these are a couple quotes from some of our nurses, where they were present at end of life, but family members had to be present outside of the building, literally watching their loved ones die from a patio window. At some nursing homes and other places across the country, that wasn't even an option, especially if, as an example, your loved one is admitted to the second floor of the nursing home and you literally can't get to a window. So the reason that this is important, the reason why St. Louis Hospice matters and why the Florence Rotary Club matters is that we do have a dedicated community resource that's the only one in North Denver. So our inpatient unit is a 16-bed, again, dedicated hospice unit that's available for acute symptom management. So that's when your symptoms can't be managed well at home. In those cases, we can provide respite care for caregivers. We can also provide, again, that complex symptom management from our whole range of team members in that building. And if you guys aren't familiar with, wait a minute, sorry. So like this is going to be recorded for everyone's. So again, this is a resource that the Rotary Club partnered with us to build. You guys sponsored a room if you were not a member of the Rotary Club at that time. Just know that this is a resource that was available during COVID. It's a COVID-only unit where when people were unfortunately faced with end-of-life decisions, they were coming to our unit and they were able to be with their loved ones, not in the best of ways, but in a really meaningful way for the time that we were living in. And that's directly because of you guys. So thank you for that, for sure. So I'm going to talk a little bit about our community outreach, just things that we're doing outside of our clinical services. So we provide free bereavement services to anyone in the community. You do not have to have gone through hospice to seek these services. It includes counseling, support groups, and camps for both adults and children. When we do have someone pass in hospice care, there are various different mailings and things that we do after that point, including a birthday card as an example of their loved one's birthday. We send out an anniversary of death card. We send out a seed packet to symbolize new life and things like that. So that's all provided as part of the hospice benefit. We also have special services for our veterans. So that includes our hospice services where we provide different methods of recognition prior to death. And then in addition, we partner with St. Elizabeth Healthcare to sponsor an annual veteran appreciation luncheon. So in each of the folders on your table, I put in a flyer. If you are a veteran, if you know a veteran, or if you have a way to post that flyer for us, we would love the support. We're definitely looking to recognize all veterans. So again, it's so meaningful to recognize veterans in end of life, but we're not just focused on veterans in end of life. We want all veterans of all ages, active service members, that type of thing. Our Equine Adventure Camp for Kids and Family is a horse-based, it's a horse therapy-based camp. It's down in Wilton, Kentucky at the New Day Ranch. And we offer it for, it depends on the session, but typically it's for kids 8 to 18. They come down, they get outdoor experiences. Again, they get to participate in taking care of the horses. We do crafts and activities to help them process their grief. Again, this is free and open to all of the schools. So we also, in the fall, are bringing back our STARS support group program. So this is for pre-K through 12th grade. Any child that's experienced a loss, we separate them into age-appropriate groups. And then again, we're doing all of those activities, providing them with healthy coping mechanisms to help them get through the experience that they've had. This is on hiatus since 2020. We're so excited to bring it back. It serves about 30 to 40 kids each year. We hope to be able to increase it and do it not just once a year, but right now we're just shooting for the fall and hoping that we remain in person and no more shenanigans. And then coming in 2023, we're also going to partner with team, and we're going to be providing community education. So that's going to be a symposium out in the community. Again, this is not focused on hospice. This is focused on caregiver burnout, common issues, common diseases that we see here in Kentucky. And the goal is to just provide better education to the community, which is one of St. Elizabeth's initiatives to be the healthiest community in the country. I'm going to bring up Debbie. She's going to talk a little bit about our volunteer program.
Thank you. I'm Debbie Hollern. I'm the volunteer coordinator with the hospice program. I've been, like Natalie said, is calling. I've been doing this for 22 years. So it's I love what I do. You know, with COVID, I know you all have lost some members, and we lost about 15% of our volunteers. So the hospital in general has a volunteer advisory council, and we were discussing ways to, increase our membership again, and this was one of them. Get out in the community, talk to local groups. So that's really why I'm here, not just specifically to talk about hospice, but to talk about volunteering in general. The benefits of volunteering, you have a sense of purpose when you go to volunteer. You have a sense of community. I know I try to have my volunteers in their own community, whether they're going into a nursing home or a patient's family's home. I want it to be in their own community so that they have that sense. The Volunteer Advisory Council also, there were two people that came up and said, I made some really new friends, or several new friends by volunteering here. And the other man said, it's my lifeline. And I thought that was just the neatest way to describe it. And he said, you know, I retired and you could only watch so much Ellen every day. And now she dropped off the air, so, you know, so that, now he's really in trouble, you know. So he said, that's my lifeline to give me a purpose and to give me hope. It increases your social skills and your self-esteem. And that good feeling you get leads to less stress and anxiety and anger in your own life. You know, hospice is not for everyone. Natalie and I say it's a calling. You know, dealing with death and dying every day and hearing about it is not for everyone, but we do train you. And here I see Pat Rafferty, and I'm like, well, Pat Rafferty, I've never met Pat Rafferty, but I've met the better half of him. So Patty Rafferty has for 25 years worked with us and done communication and taught communication to all our volunteers. So that's, you know, that's just 25 years is a long time, and she's still doing it for me. So we cherish her. But you know, hospice is not for everyone. But there are so many, you know, if you get out of your comfort zone a little bit, there's so many different places within our hospitals that you can find something that maybe you like better than hospice. You know, so I have put up my contact information as well as other volunteer coordinators' contact information within the hospital, the different systems. So if you're interested into looking into something, we have all kinds of different things for you to do. We have what we call the joint.
Oh, no.
I know, I'm sorry.
We don't have time for a story.
We have, you know, now see, you got me off track now. We have very many volunteers, and we have what's called the Joint Commission, that is our accrediting agency. And they come every 3 years and accredit our program. And one of the things this year that he asked me, the surveyor asked me, he said, what's one of the things you're most proud of in your program? And I said, instantly, it was, we have probably 12 volunteers that have been with us over 20 years or more. And of course, Paul Hughes has probably been, what, 2004. So, you know, he's been with us for a long time. And Patty, like, for 25 years. And of course, Dennis has been with us for 30 years. So I'm sure you are all aware that he's been a volunteer for a long time for us. So he's just going to talk a little bit about what our program meant to him. Or still does.
Thanks, Deb. Thanks, Natalie. Now they had mentioned for me to say a few things about my involvement with hospice, and it was 1991. I had been in banking for 25 years, sold the bank. I got certified to be a player representative for Major League players. And for the first time in my life, I was able to kind of set my schedule. Because regardless of what people say about bankers' hours, you didn't have much free time. So I talked a good game about, man, if I could ever do something, I'd love to do. Well, I finally had the time where I could set it up. So I went through the training with hospice. And as Debbie had mentioned, you got different phases of volunteering. You can go into the patient's home, you can volunteer at the unit. And so I wanted one set day where I knew, because if you go into home, that could be at different days, different times. I needed a set time. And so Thursdays, they all know Thursday's the day I'm down there. And I've been doing that for a long time. And I can tell you, you know, the old corny saying, you get much more than you give. And I have received much more being involved with hospice. The nurses, all the staff, but the nurses that are down there, it's a difficult job. It's a difficult job because you want to be efficient in what you do, and they are efficient. But you also want to give that emotional support back, and you see those nurses do that. But I can't tell you how many times I have witnessed nurses go in there, boy, roll up their sleeves, a real acute situation where things are active and they're taking care of the patient, and they're trying to take care of the family, and they're giving them the supporting words, and then they'll walk out, and they do it so professionally, then they'll walk out and go in another room and start crying. It can wear on you. and they are amazing. They really are. Every individual is different, but on the general consensus, the nursing down there is just unbelievable. And as Natalie had mentioned, we're all gonna be in that situation one day or another. Our ultimate goal for all of us is to die nice in the warm bed and at home and got the ball game on, we just clinched the game, and I'm happy as heck. But it doesn't always happen that way. So it is sure nice to have something in our community that enables you when things are really looking bad and you've got all this on your shoulder as a caregiver, trying to take care. You've got the physical aspect of maybe lifting your loved one or administering the drugs that they need, and you're not sure, did I do this, did I do that? And then the emotional, that is the thing. And to know that you've got an organization that can come in your home, help you there, and then when it gets to the point where you need the full hospital care, to have a facility. And for those who weren't around when we got involved with the building, and that's been 14 years ago, is it? 14 years ago, we got involved at the ground roots because the hospital more or less told the hospice people, raise some money to build your own facility, because we used to be in St. Elizabeth North down in Covington. I don't know if you all remember that. It's where a lot of you might have been born down there. And we were on the 3rd floor, and it was dark, it was dingy, it was kind of depressing. And we needed a new facility, and that's what we worked for years and years and years. And this club got involved, and we raised the money to have a room. You go down there to St. Elizabeth Hospice and the unit, you'll see one of the 16 rooms. There's a gold plate out there, Florence Rotary Club. Right there, we got one room. I think it's 115 is the room number. So you should be proud of that. And we raised the money to do that in a year and a half. It was a lot of money. And we did it, so, you know, hats off to everybody that was involved in that. But I can tell you as a volunteer, and if you all, you know, would feel like it would be something that you could handle, and there's different types of responsibilities and duties. I've been involved with being in the patient's room from the beginning. And I remember the very first week I was there. And you know, you feel like you're prepared. You had the training, and the training is really good because you got all facets. You've got the doctors coming in. You have one day of training doctors and the psychiatrists and the clergy and all different areas that are covered in hospice. So you feel like you're kind of prepared, but until you get in there and walk in that unit and you're there doing whatever you're going to be doing, as far as a lot of it is service, you're replenishing supplies or whatever. Most of it is spending time with family and the patient themselves. And the very first week I was there, there was a blind gentleman, and just the nicest guy. And one of the nurses said, he loves sports. He loves sports. I spent a lot of time in his room because, you know. So I went in the room with him, and he wanted me to read the sports page. So most of the day, I read the whole sports page to him. You know, I went through everything, you know, and he loved it. So the second week, I come back, and that's unusual. What is it, still 4 or 5 days? It's the average stay in the unit. That's about all. So when I say goodbye on Thursdays, I'm saying goodbye most of the time. But you have the exceptions where they hang on. And so this individual was still there. So I went in there, and of course he had weakened tremendously. And so I'm reading the sports page to him. This is my second week. I'm reading the sports page to him. All of a sudden, I see the breathing change. I had never experienced that. And I'm seeing that, and all of a sudden, I kept waiting. I sat there for about a minute. I'm waiting for the exhale, nothing. And I realized he had passed. So I went out to the nurse's station, and I brought the nurse in, and she went ahead and she pronounced him dead. And she said, "What were you doing?" And I said, "I was reading the sports page." she said, cause of death, you bored him to death. That was my first experience, but you will see, if you do decide to go into volunteering, you will see the best of people. And you say, how could that be when people are dying? Because people, and I'm talking about the relatives and the close friends, you're so vulnerable at that time. All the pretense, all the formality that's washed away. And people just need to be told that it's going to be all right. They need someone to lean on, or to hug. And everybody's different. Some might not be that way. And that was what was so bad with COVID. I mean, for the longest period of time, we couldn't go into the rooms. We couldn't do anything. Family couldn't go in there. Now it's back pretty much to normal. But I'm telling you, we got a lot of great things. And this is what's kind of interesting too. And I know that Natalie knows this and whatever, but really until the 80s, hospice was not an accepted thing in this country. And believe it or not, the medical profession fought it. Yeah, right. Still fight it to a degree, but it's much, much better. But in those days, the doctors did not want to admit defeat. We're not going to admit you're dying. We're not going to admit that there's no chance of you getting better. And finally, it started evolving. And the medical profession started seeing exactly the importance of having this service. Like, we're a service organization. I mean, that is the ultimate service organization, because we've all experienced it in our lives, and we know in the future we're going to. And to me, it's reassuring to know when the time comes for me that my family is not going to be like, oh my God, how am I going to? Hey, there's some place that you can really have an individual there and feel good. Feel good that they're being taken care of. Feel good that when the time comes, they're going to be surrounded by people who absolutely care, and you have the opportunity as a family to be around. So I would encourage anybody who has ever been thinking about volunteering, and there's all different areas. Some people don't feel comfortable going in the rooms. Some people would rather do a lot of other work, but just participating with this organization in this at St. Elizabeth Hospital has been a blessing for me, and I think it would be for you all. So I want to thank Natalie. I want to thank Debbie for being here. Is there any questions you might have for them with regard to hospice and some of the particulars? Yes, sir.
Just two compliments. I had a good friend who went through hospice, and I was a primary caregiver, and he was very poor, had nothing. And he went into hospice, and his latter days were quality, because this man had nothing. So it was they did an excellent job from A to Z. And two, I've been involved with the grief camp there at New Day Ranch, and that's another great program that we do.
That's really progressed, hasn't it, that camp?
Yeah, we used to do one session a year. Now we do 2 to 3, depending on the need. But we always, I didn't put a flyer in any of the folders because unfortunately we were full. We serve about 30 kids per camp, so we've got 2 sessions scheduled this year. Last year we did 3, so it depends the weather. We're going to have rain this week, as you know. It's happening this week, and then there's another one in August.
Now, if those who haven't been down there, you got the facility, okay, with the 16 beds, 16. But then there's a building built right next to it. It's a grief center. You might tell them what that's used for.
Yeah, so it's an event center. We hold support groups there, individual counseling sessions for adults and children. It's available again to anyone in the community, so it doesn't have to be anybody that has gone through hospice care. So if you are seeing someone for individualized counseling, you'll come to the grief center right next to hospice. In addition to not just the unit and then the grief center, but we have these beautifully landscaped grounds. One of the things we didn't talk about is our patio palps program, which is a volunteer-based program where we have master gardeners come out and make our grounds so beautiful, because again, our patios are individualized. So every single room has a dedicated patio with a door that is wide enough to accommodate the entire bed. So we've had people do cookouts on our patios. We've had people, I think we've hosted a wedding before. anything that's necessary to make that person's list. Cocktail hours, in hospice care. You're allowed in.
Happy hour of hospice.
Hey, whatever works. You know, when we were able to get that building built, they allowed us to give personal, input in terms of, because we'd been down there at St. E's North, and it was, and the bright look, the fire, you saw the picture of the fireplace in the family area where, I mean, if you're down there with a loved one, and in most cases, that patient is going to be sleeping most of the time or dozing in and out. So, loved ones don't want to leave them, but sitting by that bed hour after hour after hour, we all know. So you can go out into the other parts of this facility, and it's great. You got a big fire during the winter. It's wonderful, fire going on, and you got TVs.
We also have a family kitchen. You're welcome to use any.
Family kitchens, yeah, and they get the TVs. They can get the ball game. You can't believe how many older patients want the ball game. Really, I mean, it's really, but it's just, when you talk about losing someone and you talk about children being involved, that's where this grief center really is important. It's important for adults too, don't get me wrong, but children have a tougher time expressing themselves sometimes about what's wrong, how they're keeping things in. And I know we've had chaplains involved who were great. I mean, we've lost a couple of chaplains in the past couple of years who were just wonderful people. And we still have the staff that supply that, but it's just a great area. Yeah.
Dennis, I was with the American Cancer Society for 30 plus years. And every time someone would die with cancer, I would look at the obituaries. They didn't thank us, they thanked the hospice.
Yeah.
And I couldn't understand why for years. And when my mother, when I was saying about her in a hospital room, sad as we were outside in the hallway, people just laughing, hollering. I'd be laying across the hall. That's when I realized how nice it was to have a place.
Yeah.
We're outside the hall, they're not up there laughing and hollering when you're breathing. Yeah. And I really appreciate what you all do. And I can't thank Dennis enough what you've done. 30 years, and I've seen you over there in your hearts. And I know your middle name is Hospice. I know that. And we love you for it. Thank you.
Thanks, dear. I appreciate it.
It's the hospice nurse for over 35 years. My greatest dream is, and if there's anybody knows anybody with a lot of money, they don't know what to do with, I'd like to have a hospice place that allowed the pets. Because the hospice cases that I've had and the pets were in the bed with them, they didn't need nearly as much medicine. It's a lot smoother, and they're not dirty, filthy animals. They are angels.
We allow pets, don't we?
We do. I will say that during COVID, so we do music therapy, massage therapy, and pet therapy. The difficult thing during COVID is basically all of that had to shut down. So we would partner with staff members who happen to be musically talented. That would not be me, but there are those people who are musically talented. And so we would bring in
instead of staying.
Yeah, so the pets can come in, they can be in the bed with the patient.
Yeah.
The difficult thing.
We just had next week, we had a great Dane walk in the door. He was he was huge.
Massive.
It was like, I was like, oh, and I mean, we just all love, we like them just as much as patients do. That's great.
I think this gentleman's been waiting to ask.
Brad. Yeah, Brad.
I'm just going to ask, in case I missed it here, does the majority of the funding come from the support program?
So hospice is a covered benefit. So
Okay.
that is covered. The bereavement services are 100% through community funding. We have several grants that we have through GE, and then we also apply for various different reach grants, typically for child-based services, because those are a little bit easier to capture, you can imagine. In terms of some of the other services, like our patio pals or landscaping, that's almost entirely donated through our patio pals program. We're required to have at least, I think, 5 to 10% of volunteer hours per Medicaid in order to continue to be accredited through the Joint Commission. So a lot of our actual services are provided by volunteers, but the clinical services itself.
Hospice is the only program that is you have to provide 5% of hospital setting, you know, that's, they volunteers, you can't run a hospital without. They save us hundreds of thousands of dollars, and it's not kind of reimbursable. So we have to have it. That's a
So like our veteran event, our point camp, those are all through community donations.
Dennis, how many people died under your watch this year? Reading the Red Sports page.
Usually a go-to method there. This year would have been much more effective, to be honest with you. I mean, you know, but no, I don't have a number on that, but I can tell you that there are a lot of crazy things that do happen that we have experienced. I remember we were talking about being able to set up the dimensions and everything else. We were able to make the doors big enough where you can put the beds if they want to go out there on the patio. And some are that way. I will tell you the vast majority don't, but there are some that are still strong enough. And where this setting is, we got deer, we got all kinds of wildlife that come down, you know, different times during the day. So I was talking to this lady, and she loved the wildlife. She goes, I saw a deer or whatever. So she was one of those gals who hung over to the next week, and I came in and I said, have you seen anything anymore? She goes, oh, I saw a deer last night, I saw this and that. But she said, I've got one request. I've got one wildlife to be removed, if you would. I go, well, what's that? And there was a big snake coiled on her patio back there. She goes, it bothers me. I know there's a door there, but it just bothers me knowing there's a snake. So if you do volunteer, that might be a duty that you have to undertake, remove a snake. So, but it's a wonderful organization, and I appreciate these type of people that work there. It's fun working with them, and it's a heck of a service for our community and that. So thank you all for coming.
Thank you. I have a couple of announcements I missed before the talk. We have been asked to provide some volunteers for the Boone County Fair on Wednesday, August 10th. If you're interested in volunteering, see Barb at the back table there. She's got the sign-up sheet.
Is that working okay?
It is working the gate, but it's different this year. We don't stand out with the cars. You have to wear those lovely vests that Adam's trying to so we can, we're at the ticket booth where we actually just take we don't take any money, we just take the tickets. And we can hang our banner there because there's a place for a banner if you want to do that. Or if anybody has a Rotary t-shirt or something that they want to wear.
I was just gonna say, if you really wanted to spend time with Gary Stewart on his birthday, it's August 10th, maybe you could have a little birthday party.
How do you know it's my birthday?
Kent County, like Boone County Fair.
How do you know that? I did put it on TV, asking people to send me money. Yeah.
I was putting it in my calendar, and I had it there in case Gary Stewart has a birthday party, or hold out.
You're good.
We have 16 shifts, so well, there's 2-hour shifts, 4 to 6, 6 to 8, and 8 to 10. We need a total of 16 people. So please come see me on your way out the door. Don't slide out.
Sign up.
Want to get it all settled.
Yes, sir.
Just a question real quick. If we were to do a clergy appreciation or pastor appreciation event sometime in the fall, how many of you all have a pastor or know somebody that you might invite to that? I'm just going to get a show of hands. Okay. Very good. All right. Thank you. Just an idea that's percolating. I just want to see what the interest level was.
Okay. And then one other thing, I did send a survey out, so if you haven't seen it yet, check your spam, check your folders, look for the survey. I'd really like input from the club members. So let us know exactly what you want from your Rotary Club of Florence. And our next meeting is Monday, August 1st, where Matt Turner, Superintendent of Boone County Schools, will be giving us a state of the Boone County schools. There's nothing else.